story next on...
Now, from the news center for Northern California.
Torrential floodwaters and oozing mud that couldn't be stopped have split...
Marin standing by now in an editing
from the area today. This young child and her mother were evacuated by helicopter from the parking lot at Marin General and taken to San Francisco. The helicopter was used because there were concerns an ambulance couldn't get through the closed Golden Gate Bridge. Less than a half-mile away, people were lined up outside this supermarket to buy food. There's no shortage of food here, but most of the employees never made it to work.
The empty portion of the Waldo grade, we just saw the first crush of cars that went through as they opened up the bridge, just as you were going on the air. But we are expecting more traffic to go through here. 3 of the lanes are open now on northbound 101. The CHP is advising motorists to not take the first exit into Sausalito because of that mudslide down on Bridgeway. They expect some dangerous situations down there. So the suggestion is if you live in Sausalito to go all the way down to the last exit for Sausalito and come back around. Meantime, across the highway from me are the southbound lanes. And the Caltrans workers are working heavily right now to get that area opened up by tomorrow morning's commuter hour. And right now, as you see, there's traffic moving through here. We had a motorcycle escort. People are honking. Even Caltrans worker people gave up a cheer when the first crush of cars came through. So that's the way it looks right now. They do hope to get at least 2 of the lanes open on the southbound lanes of 101 by commuter rush hour tomorrow morning, 6:30 or 7 o'clock. But it's going to be a lot of work, a lot of tons of dirt still on the highway. You can see the big machinery still moving.
Most of the residents in Marin County ourselves, because there's a big phone line broken. It's a main telephone line to San Francisco. Pacific Telephone has some 24 crewmen at the site, at the scene in Mill Valley. They've been there all day, and they're expected to have that cable fixed maybe by tomorrow night. Nobody's saying for sure.
Getting goods in to stock their shelves. We'll have the latest on what they're doing.
Has been cleared. 2 lanes of it, traffic moving normally. We'll also have a report on the search for 3
of people, those with too much to do.
Okay,
And that almost cost the owner of this classic Mercedes, about which the owners of hundreds of cars could do nothing. Reporting overnight in Marin County,
San Rafael was a mess yesterday, as was the case in most other parts of Marin County, very flooded. Some houses here were soaked worse than others. Today,
restaurants like this one are still feeling the brunt of the storm. Blocks away, the industrial section of town is still a floating disaster area. Most businesses and warehouses remained closed. Some owners had to use rowboats to get to their property.
Well, I went over to look at my shop, see how much mud and damage I had. I've got about a foot of water in my shop.
Meantime, San Rafael police and firemen used rubber rafts to patrol the devastated area and look for anyone who may be stranded. The Army National Guard was also working with police.
We're patrolling with the Army in the general neighborhood and in the Bret Harte area, trying to help people that need a hand, and we're also looking for looters.
You having problems with looters?
Yes, we are. And we're having reports in the Bret Harte area, in the commercial district. Cars are being, things are being taken off of cars, and people are trying to get into houses that are vacant and steal things.
How about businesses?
Yeah, the same thing with businesses. The whole neighborhood is very vulnerable to theft right now. We're trying to do something about it.
Almost looks like a ghost town, littered with abandoned trucks and cars in their watery graves. So business owners are basically left to themselves, and they'll have to find their own pumps to get rid of all this water. Some say that if there's no new storm, things should be back to normal by the end
area
of the
of
week.
San Rafael is normally a
broke up on Robin Hood, and the water was coming in behind me, so I turned up this road here and got stuck here. And then at 7:20, according to the neighbors here, this hillside broke loose, which turned the car up on its side.
For most of the residents, there's been too much debris in the way of any real cleanup, so early this morning there was what amounted to a neighborhood pilgrimage to Lindenwood Court, the site of the worst damage. It was a sobering experience for all.
When we saw it, we just didn't believe it. It's unbelievable. It's happened before, but not to this extent.
I can't even express how I feel. I'm fine. My home is fine, but when you see the ruin and devastation around you, you can't believe that a community that was so happy a week ago celebrating Christmas and everything, and that this has happened.
When they returned to their own homes, this is what was waiting. Mud and water everywhere, little or no electricity, and marginal telephone service. and for those who ventured out, almost constant policing. It had the feel of a war zone and the look of a disaster that will be remembered for years to come.
Traffic on 101 in other parts of the county. Heavy equipment didn't arrive and start removing trees at the largest slide until noon.
When do you think that this thing will be cleared for traffic?
We're shooting awful hard for commute tonight northbound, and we'll have southbound, I'm sure, by in the morning.
Is there any more danger of a bigger rock slide there?
We got more rain, yes.
People were told to stay off Highway 101 in Marin unless there was an emergency. There were enough people with alleged emergencies to back up traffic a mile southbound near the Civic Center, and most of them were turned back after they told their stories at the police roadblock. This is why sections of 101 in Corte Madera, San Rafael, and Novato, and side streets, overpasses, and frontage roads were underwater. Southbound traffic on 101 was finally reopened from Novato to Mill Valley shortly before 2:30 this afternoon. But each opening, closure, reopening, and reclosure is subject to change without notice. Because so many people didn't get home to Marin last night and so few could get back into San Francisco this morning, the commute traffic in the area was fairly light. But on the peninsula, especially near the airport and north, there was heavy traffic. A lot of people tried to drive through.
Mud and rock-strewn Marin neighborhoods began to fill with disbelieving neighbors. The sounds of the night before had turned into morning scenes of horror and panic.
Yeah, it's my house.
Those who lost the most were the most edgy. James McCrae was understandably worried about looters. In the period of about 15 seconds yesterday, a wall of water and mud tore his Larkspur house into 3 jumbled pieces. His furniture, his car, his clothes, everything but his life was destroyed so quickly.
It was amazing. It was like thunder, and all of a sudden the house cracked and exploded and took off down the road.
Was there at any time ever any warning, sounds?
Just the thunder, just as it happened. There's a bedroom here and a storage room beneath it. There's a kitchen over there in the lower level and another study den on the upper level.
We got to get into that. And it's not there anymore.
It's gone.
In slide areas, there were signs of just how unexpected yesterday's storm really was. Those in the path of marauding mud left so quickly they weren't able to turn out the lights or even pick up the dog. But even more people found themselves trapped in their neighborhoods. Streets made impassable by raging brown rivers, churning mud, and tumbling boulders and limbs.
This is the Dominican area in San Rafael. Cameraman Al Bullock and I were one of the first television crews in here today, and it's a mess.
The usually trickling waterfalls in the hills above the subdivision had always been part of some real estate agent's sales pitch. But the rains turned the falls into nightmares, as at least 24 homes here, some costing as much as $300,000, sustained severe damage.
All of a sudden, everything let go, our fence in the back, and all the water and rocks just came flooding in. We just had to get out of the house fast.
How'd you get out?
Through the bedroom window in the front of the house. There's a window, a little one that would just open.
You didn't even have time to put on any shoes?
No.
Most of the houses that did slide were not those located high on hillsides. They were the houses that were located in the ravines where the water naturally comes down from the hills. Why the houses were built there in the first place is another question altogether.
Some of the houses, like this one in San Rafael, appear to have been pushed off their foundations not by the mud, but by rampaging water. In fact, the foundation here was intact. If only the house had not been built in the path nature made for runoff. The hardest hit Marin neighborhoods won't be cleaned up for months. The damage estimates already have reached into the hundreds of millions of dollars, and many of those victimized did not have flood insurance. For now, it's a matter of
3 decades. The death toll stands at least 16 and has been rising, and hundreds have been uprooted from their homes. The rain has now stopped, but the storm, which began Sunday afternoon, brought winds of 50 miles an hour and dropped an average of 10 inches of rain on the San Francisco Bay Area. Countless homes have been destroyed by mudslides, and at least 5 deaths are blamed on the slides. A desperate rescue effort is underway in Pacifica, on the coast, 25 miles south of San Francisco. 3 children were trapped in their 1-story home, which was crushed last night by a 2-story house carried down a hill in a mudslide. The structure you see is the second story of the house that slid down. Trapped in the mud-filled wreckage below and feared dead are 14-year-old Michelle Velez, her 9-year-old brother Billy, and 4-year-old sister Melissa. The parents managed to escape and tried to reach the children. The rescue effort began almost immediately.
Someone said there were some kids screaming, and then the father was in this area here trying to dig after his kids. And he was screaming that his kids are inside.
The rescue teams are bringing in a 30-ton crane. There is the faint hope that there may be some air available to the children in the mud and rubble. Karen Lacey, who lives 2 doors away, took the parents in last night and wrapped them in blankets.
You can buy anything, start new. You can't replace children.
Again today, the Golden Gate Bridge was closed to residents of Marin County to the north. Damage in Marin, the hardest hit area, is estimated at $30 million. Rivers of mud and rainwater continue to flow through area streets, damaging or destroying expensive homes. Hundreds of roads are closed in a 6-county area and numerous bridges are out. This is Route 1, the coast highway south of San Francisco. In Vallejo, to the east, hundreds left their flood-threatened homes and spent the night in evacuation centers. The heaviest death toll occurred in Santa Cruz, 60 miles south of San Francisco. 5 died in mudslides and another person drowned. Assessing the damage will take some time. The cleanup will take much longer.
Was killed, and there have been unconfirmed reports of at least 3 more people in a house that toppled missing. That mudslide is now threatening to destroy the Waldo Grade Tunnel. Because of that, the Golden Gate Bridge has been closed again. Right now, Eyewitness News reporter Sherry Hu is standing by live at the Waldo Grade. Sherry, what is the latest out there?
David, we're standing actually in a neighborhood of Sausalito, a neighborhood that has been evacuated. We're on High Vista Road, and if you take a look behind me, you can see the mudslide that you've been talking about just below Highway 101. I've just finished talking to a group of Caltrans engineers and geologists up at the Waldo Grade. One engineer says he feels at this time the highway is solid and safe, but they're going to set up monitoring devices to keep track of slight movements in the highway. At this time, the California Highway Patrol reports they're going to try to open up a few of the lanes later today to both north and southbound traffic, but that hasn't been confirmed yet. Engineers who are working up on Waldo Grade say that the massive mudslide that washed onto 101 Monday night is not related to the current problem that's threatening some of the Sausalito residents. They say the landfill that is below the highway is now sliding. People living in the neighborhoods near 101 have been evacuated, those neighborhoods in Hurricane Gulch. And city officials are trying to determine when people can return to their homes. And they're having a meeting on that in just about a couple of hours to decide. People who were evacuated were sent to the Martin Luther King School. I understand they're still there right now. As you mentioned, one woman has died in the mudslides here in Sausalito. We don't have any reports so far of any further injuries. We'll keep
Lower Cascade and Main Street. The slide was just above them, and it was too dangerous. Police were going door to door evacuating people. They were using bullhorns from helicopters to alert some residents, while others heard that deadly grinding sound of brick and foundation giving way and knew to get out of there.
I was sound asleep, and I heard this loud crashing noise. Must have lasted about 15 seconds or so, and I leaned over and woke up my wife, and I says, look, I think something's sliding outside. And then about that time, my friend Florence had called and told me what happened, and that we were evacuated.
Mud and water created a new river where Upper Main Street used to be. In all, some 600 people were forced to evacuate. They've been put up at Martin Luther King School. Most of them got out of the water tank down Sausalito slopes. Firefighters are worried that if it goes, it could start a chain reaction and take with it dozens of homes.
And the Richmond-San Rafael Bridge. You'll go through Richmond, and you'll get on the Bay Bridge into the city. Now, if you don't want all that driving, probably the easy way to get from Marin to San Francisco is by boat. There are 6 times the regular number of ferries operating today. They're running at 45 minutes after...
But you are covered for rain and wind damage. So if your roof is leaking or a tree falls over in the wind, damaging your home, that's probably covered. On the other hand, if your basement floods, you may be out of luck. Car insurance policies will protect you even if your car is underwater tonight. And if you live in a mobile home, that policy usually includes